Doctor's appointment, court. Stuff.
How are you? I'm good.
I guess it's the minute after the magic hour of 3 o'clock, so we can call the October 16th meeting of the Laconia Police Commission to order, and would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Recording secretary is Executive Assistant Lori A. Marsh. Lori, would you let the minutes show that three of the commissioners are present, Whittam, Tar, and Mello. We have a quorum with the commission, so we will move on to personnel matters. Chief Canfield, and I neglected to introduce Chief Canfield too. He is the only representative of the department here, uniform representative today, so it's all on his shoulders. So, commendations and awards,
Nothing.
resignations and retirement.
We had one resignation, a part-time dispatcher that resigned. She was a full-time dispatcher with us years ago, and then she went to part-time for family reasons. She's moving to the Bedford area, so she's not able to commute and work in a part-time capacity for us. On that note, we've advertised for several part-time positions as well as a full-time position to replace Corey Lowe's position, and their interviews scheduled for next week. So we actually got a significant number of applications for it, which was nice.
Good. Promotions and classification changes. Chief Canfield?
Nothing?
Command staff reports. Support division, Chief Canfield.
So from Captain Grayton, he's been monitoring the budget. The budget is on track. We're in the process of putting together the budget requests, which are due to sometime in the beginning of December. So once that is assembled, we'll get it to the commission for review before submitting that. And that is it for support.
Any questions or comments? All right, moving on to operations division.
So Pumpkin Fest is this weekend. They've been busy with the planning of that. They put up several cameras in the area today. So the planning with that is in full swing, and they'll be doing that this weekend. They conducted a recruitment test last Saturday for police officer positions. That was held at Great Bay. They got about 19 applications that were interested in working for Laconia. Sunday is the PT test. So they'll be conducting that, followed by the interviews next week, with the hope of filling our open positions for the January Academy.
What's the vacancy status?
We currently have 3 openings. However, we have one in the pipeline that is almost done with his background, or very near his background completion. So we're looking for 2 out of this pool of candidates. So I'm hopeful we'll be able to pull those. In addition, our intern program, our summer parking enforcement college students, they'll be graduating in the spring. And they're both actually we have 2 of them that were parking enforcement. They're very interested. They went through this testing process, and they'll be in the line should we have openings in the spring. They want to work here, so that's 2 of them plus a guy that's getting out of the Coast Guard. So this should put us at capacity, and then we'll have people waiting as well. So
Legal division, Prosecutor Sawyer's not here. I assume he's in court.
I believe so.
So moving forward, under commission action, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the last commission meeting.
So move. Second.
On a motion made by Commissioner Tar and seconded by Commissioner Mello. All in favor?
Aye.
It passes unanimously. The meeting minutes of September 18th are accepted as distributed. Next on the agenda, out-of-state schools, the use of force summit.
So the Use of Force Summit is a summit that's conducted in Connecticut by a well-known use of force attorney, Eric Daigle. This was attended by both captains last year, and it's one of the higher liability areas of our job. And certainly there's a lot of great takeaways, and we made some changes to our use of force reporting. So I think it'd be beneficial for them to attend that again this year, and they're requesting attendance at an out-of-state school in Connecticut to do so.
I noticed on the training request, the tuition is on there, but there's nothing for meals, room, or travel.
It should have been, 'cause it's like a couple days long.
It's the 4th and 5th of December.
Yeah, we can get you those numbers.
Okay. Are they included in the tuition itself, or?
I don't believe so. They're typically not, so I will get you those prices.
Okay.
1390.
Pending receipt of that information, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Before I do that, can I take a look at that? I didn't get that in my packet, I don't think, that training reports. This one here? No. So, Matt, is the intention that Alan and Mike will come back and act as in-house trainers for this, or?
It's more or less department policy and procedure as far as the investigation of uses of force, whether it's a taser incident, whether it's a hands-on use of force, how we're reporting it, proper review. We have a really good procedure in place because of our national accreditation standards. But Eric Daigle he's an expert in uses of force from a legal perspective. So there's always things to glean from that we can tweak as far as the review process.
On that, you take that court, they have a review every year, the officers, on that use of force.
Correct, yes, they go through defensive tactics training every other year, they go through taser training every year, and they go through firearms classroom portion as well as firearms range training twice a year. Yep.
Yeah, one more comment, I guess an observation, is I recall that when Lieutenant Clary was in charge of that division, I think, if my recollection serves me correctly, he used to submit a yearly use of force report
Correct.
that we got to review.
Yep, those will come out in January. They'll be compiled, as of December 31st, they'll be compiled and presented at the January meeting.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
So pending receipt of the information, based upon the chief's opinion that this is a liability issue, I'll entertain a motion to approve this out-of-state school.
I move that we approve the out-of-state school as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
On a motion made by Commissioner Tar and seconded by Commissioner Mello, it passes unanimously, and the above listed school is approved. Also, you received a list of holidays. Do we need a motion to approve those, Chief, or is that,
Yes, we do.
okay?
So move.
Second.
On a, it was approved, it was on a motion made by Commissioner Tar and seconded by Commissioner Mello, the approved holiday schedule is accepted.
Is this, is this for sworn officers or everybody?
It's for
Schedule.
both. It's for both. It designates the same, and it's the same holiday schedule that the city adopts.
Okay.
All right, moving on. Monthly activity reports, monthly highlights, Chief Canfield.
So for the month of September, we responded to 1,846 calls for service, which was up slightly from the month before, which was 1,769. We investigated 366 criminal offenses, cleared 239 of them by physical custody arrest, and made a total of 152 physical custody arrests. Stopped 354 motor vehicles, which was up from 248 the month before. Issued 17 motor vehicle summonses, 275 written warnings, which was up significantly the corresponding month last year. The list that you have indicates one fatal accident. I don't know where that came from, but that is not accurate. There were no fatal accidents for the month of September. We investigated 45 total motor vehicle accidents, 10 of which had injury. Issued 70 parking tickets, arrested 60 WIs, took 39 people into custody for intoxication. Responded to a total of 38 domestic disturbance calls, 106 other disturbances, 7 suicidal subjects, investigated 4 violation restraining orders, and handled 1 barricaded subject. Laconia Police Department employees donated a total of 15 hours of their own time during the month of September, and our victim services unit donated 26.25 hours of their time.
And criminal investigative statistics?
So for the month of September, the detective unit investigated, they were assigned 9 initial follow-up cases, or 9 initial cases, conducted 12 follow-ups on other cases, made 1 felony arrest, 1 misdemeanor arrest, 1 misdemeanor charge, issued 7 search warrants, conducted 20 sex offender registrations, 2 background investigations. They covered 1 patrol shift, conducted 4 polygraph examinations, and a total of 78 training hours, which I would assume would have gone towards the new recruits training. And in addition, they did 32 body-worn camera redactions for discovery purposes for legal.
Just a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
Just, Matt, on the initial cases, looks like there's been quite a dip from 218 to 219 to date, and I just wonder if there's you could amplify on that a little bit, or?
Yeah, I mean, it ebbs and flows. They take a lot of the serious cases. So some of these cases will be referred directly to detectives. They are a little short-staffed in detectives right now, so it's a little bit more selective in what types of cases that they're being assigned. And that just kind of ebbs and flows as well.
There's been no difference in department policy. That would explain the number there at all, or?
No, there hasn't.
Okay.
A question on the computer-related, what kinds of things would that involve?
Computer-related, usually they're ICAC cases, which is the Internet Crimes Against Children type of cases. So this is, although we're not part of the ICAC team, it's based out of Portsmouth and Concord as well, but a lot of times they'll develop online cyber tips leading to child pornography, whether it's typically distribution of child pornography. And when it comes back into our jurisdiction, they'll refer the case to us, and we'll either work with them or take the case over, which is the majority of the computer-related.
You said you're not part of that team?
We're not part of ICAC. We do work with them closely. We just have not assigned someone to their team.
Or you have a connection with someone on the team, right?
We do,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just one more question, if I could, Mr. Chairman. On the, is this back to the monthly activity report, Matt, for a minute? That 152 for the number of physical arrests in September?
Yep.
Is that department-wide, or is that just for patrol officers or the operations unit?
That's department-wide.
The thing I'm still trying to rectify in my mind, then you look at the criminal investigation unit report. When you look at the number of arrests that were made by that unit, I'm just trying to trying to rectify the two.
You mean because, like, for this month, they had 1 felony arrest and 1 misdemeanor arrest?
Yeah.
So a lot of what the detectives will do, they'll, like, if a patrol officer takes a case of a computer-related crime or a burglary investigation, they might send parts of that upstairs to detectives to work. Detectives will fume it. They'll assist with search warrants on a car that we seize for a drug investigation, but then that's done as a supplement. It goes back to the patrol officer. They'll generate the warrants. The arrest statistic would fall more with patrol than it would detective, so they wouldn't get the arrest number assigned to them.
Gotcha.
Happens a lot with motor vehicle stops. It will stop someone and they'll have some indication that they have probable cause to develop a search warrant, so they'll impound the car, and then detectives usually help out a lot in that regard.
Thank you.
Moving on to monthly fleet report, Chief.
Nothing on that unless you have any questions.
Budget printouts.
We're right on track we're still early in the year, but our budget is certainly right on track.
When did you say the budget presentation is coming up? Oh, you have to submit a,
The submittals due, we haven't gotten the actual date, but it's usually the beginning of December,
okay.
with the budget presentation somewhere in the May, June timeframe.
You've been giving any, you get general parameters from the city?
We
About
do.
submissions in terms of percentage of increased guidelines or anything like that, or?
We do. It's usually based on the CPI index, which I think is running about 1.8 right now. So that's generally speaking what
Yeah.
the increase is requested to be at.
We have a lot of grant-funded people right now on the sworn side,
We have two, I believe,
too.
under the cops hiring grant. Yeah,
Are those slated to expire in 20?
I think there's another 2 years on those.
Two more.
Yep.
Thanks.
Look for comment on the outstanding job that you do on the budget. I mean, you look at, like, week 11, percentage for the year was 21.15, and the year-to-date expenditures were 20.338, almost right on. At week 13, percentage for the year, 24.99, and then the percent of the budget extended year-to-date, 24.10. I mean, just hand in hand.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly, the overtime is we keep the overtime to an absolute minimum. We usually move people around, and the majority of that goes to mandated court time. So it does help keep the budget in line, for sure.
Correspondence to and from the department.
So there was a couple nice letters received. There was a thank you letter for on the anniversary of 9/11, and then there was a thank you letter from a gentleman who helped with the Chaos and Kindness event in Lakeport, thanking our officers who worked the event.
Chief, can I just ask in general terms, this correspondence from
Attorney
Westcott
Ambrose.
Law, was that, I'm just curious about that referral, or if you can discuss that.
I would have to get you particulars on it,
Yeah.
which I can get to you. I don't know what that is in particular.
Second one is on this correspondence from Mr. Darling. On paragraph 2, I'll paraphrase what he said. This is about Chaos and Kindness event. As the event continued to grow in size, the lack of time to plan and prepare for this event created issues that if the city had better and timelier information were avoidable. Do you know what those were, or what the issues there were?
It was a very large event for that location. We worked very closely with the promoters of it. There were times that were challenging for sure, but how it came together, the sheer number of people, especially given the location, created certain challenges. The biggest one with that was the traffic flow, especially at the time of heavy people there. But also there were some businesses that were in the area that were impacted by people parking in their yards and stuff, that it interrupted their business flow that they were not too pleased about. And I think they've been referred to the Special Events Committee, debrief on the 6th.
Yeah, realistically, you did not have a lot of planning time for this event. I mean, it's not like Motorcycle Week and you can plan months in advance. You had a limited time, time scope to,
Yeah, it came together very quickly, and things just changed very rapidly every day, so it was very challenging to plan for. And
The estimated attendance at that event?
8 to 10,000 people at the height of it,
10?
for the fireworks timeframe.
chief report, chief, anything else to report?
So yesterday I went to Nashua, and I sat on a roundtable panel with Senator Jean Shaheen, talking about myself, the Nashua chief, the Manchester chief, and then some other mental health experts from both the military and law enforcement sat on the panel, talking about officer resiliency and officer suicide, and how to deal with these and how to move forward with these types of issues in the state. Certainly, the safety and well-being and wellness of officers is a very real and very serious topic. We lost 5 police officers in the state last year due to suicide. Nashua had a recent suicide of a captain. So it was a roundtable, basically discussing how we can better proceed and how we can improve these, so we're not losing officers in this way. So it was a very productive meeting. I did a site security assessment. I met with Lakes Region Community Services Council, did a site security assessment with them, as well as working with the schools on their emergency preparedness board, which will be meeting in a couple of weeks. Working with the Temple Benai Temple on Court Street. Certainly their religious holiday was just recently, and there was concerns about terrorism or retribution, and so we have worked with them, and I'll be working with them next week as well. And then we're preparing for Halloween, which is coming up in a couple weeks. We'll be doing some community events with the Pleasant Street School, their annual Halloween parade, the Holy Trinity Halloween event, and then obviously, covering things at night with the event itself, which will be held from 5 to 8 p.m. for trick-or-treating. And that's all I have.
Has there been any more activity than normal at the high school, middle school with issues with students assaulting or criminal threatening? It seems like you read in the Sun, at least, when you submit, whoever submits the activity report for the PD, it seems like on a weekly basis they're responded to Laconia High School or Laconia Middle School for a criminal threatening or an assault. Is activity unusual, or is it?
I don't think it's at all unusual. I mean, I think having the officers in the school, in both the middle school and the high school,
Right.
Some of these issues are being reported sooner than they would have, and they're being addressed.
Yeah.
Probably deterring a lot of negative outcome down the road, but I don't think it's more than it ever has been.
Thank you.
Old business, chief, anything?
Nothing?
New business?
Nothing?
Confirmation of the next meeting, November 20th, 2019. Any issues? Okay. Other business? Chief, anything under other business?
Nothing.
Okay. Is there a need for, I'm sorry, citizens' comments? Anybody wishing to speak?
Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Bruce Cheney. I'm the counselor for Ward 1, and I'm the liaison from the council to the police commission, as I believe you know. Last night at the commission meeting, a businessman in Lakeport came in to express his concerns about parking, particularly people who are parking extended periods of time. In his view, some people parking all day in a 2-hour parking zone. He told the council that he had called the police department several times and received assistance on several occasions, but became concerned because the last time he called, he was told that there weren't enough people, and that he should call the city council about the problem. One of the counselors spoke up and said to him You need to be aware the council makes ordinances and policy. We don't enforce the law. That's the job of the police department. My words, not his, he was a bit resentful of the implication that somehow the council had failed to provide significant manpower. I think the chief knows I have strong feelings about the level of manning at the department, and I intend to work towards improving that. But I also feel obligated to suggest to the commission and to the chief that additional effort in places like Lakeport and downtown and others to not only deal with the things that you have to deal with, but parking issues, which in a lot of cases are more important to the average citizen than significant crimes. They're just, you know, it's a matter of your personal priorities. But in any case, without dragging this on, I'm here to ask on behalf of the council that the department make an effort, if it can, to improve the parking enforcement throughout the city. Left-handed curb, you know, parking on the sidewalks, we hear that quite a bit from the south end, and now this from Lakeport. And so any effort that the department can make, the council would really appreciate. And I will reiterate, I have every intention of trying to bolster the department, but we need to get some enforcement of these issues in the meantime.
Duly noted. Thank you. Go ahead.
Is a business person,
Yes.
Counselor? Is the parking issue that he raised have to do with overtime parking or people blocking parking in no parking spots or?
No, his complaint, his business is right on Union Avenue in Lakeport. And he claimed that the marked parking spaces are 2-hour limit parking, and people are parking there all day long. I don't think he was able to identify, or he didn't identify for the council specifically, you know, persons that might be the problem, but I got the impression listening to him that it's not one or two people, it's a number of people who park there for extended periods of time, much longer than 2 hours. I am sympathetic to, it's not always easy to pay attention to somebody's been there for 2 hours, but I would also suggest to you that a little effort on this end may get us through the winter if they realize you're paying attention to the issue. So.
In that vein, Chief, I noticed that we did in 219 that we issued, the department issued 293 violations for overtime parking, but only 2 in September, so.
Yeah.
Wondering if that kind of jumped out at me when I looked at that parking ticket report, and I wondered if there was some amplification you could give us on
Yeah, I think the big part of that is that we have the summer students that we hire to do park enforcement in the summertime, so we see a greater amount of enforcement for the latter part of June, July, and August, and then that kind of dives off, and then it kind of picks up again in November when we start doing the parking ticket warnings for overnight parking for the snow ban. That being said, duly noted, and I'll certainly have officers pay more attention, and we can.
Yeah, you might want to look at the idea of asking for one of those parking enforcement positions being permanent.
Yep.
And I think we could make a strong case for that.
Okay.
Give them an older car and let them wander the city, not just the downtown area. But that's obviously up to you and the commission, but it's a thought, just a thought. Again, the council was a bit disappointed. I'm sure they understand that the chief didn't say these things. It was someone, perhaps a dispatcher or a watch commander or somebody who probably was frustrated that particular night because they didn't have enough people. But nevertheless, I hope you can encourage them not to make those kinds of statements.
Absolutely we will.
Okay,
Thank you
thanks,
for the
Chief.
input.
Sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak? there a motion to adjourn?
Not yet. I wanted to ask about the, we're gonna talk about the overdose calls, and we already do that, and I just didn't hear you talk about that.
No, I think we actually skipped it. We missed it. Yeah, sure. So year-to-date, we've had 42 overdoses, as compared to 109 overdoses last year. So they're down significantly. We've had 5 fatal drug overdoses this year, whereas last year we had 12 for the year. So they're certainly trending downwards a lot. That being said, we're seeing a lot of meth. We're seeing a lot more meth than we are heroin mixed with fentanyl. So
Yeah.
that's probably a large part of it. So not saying that the drug problem is going away by any means, but it's certainly a change in dynamic, which,
Well, I wanted to mention it because it's still trending in the right, in a good direction.
yes, for sure. Yep, thank you.
Anything else? Now a motion to adjourn?
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. On a motion made by Commissioner Tar and seconded by Commissioner Mello, it passes unanimously, and the meeting is adjourned at 3:32.
Can I just make an after the meeting comment?